And he finishes up, quite rightly and properly, as a winner. And all Bob will say, I'm sure, is thanks to his players.
Bob Paisley inherited champions. Liverpool were already among England's strongest sides. But maintaining greatness required something harder than simply protecting what was already there. Paisley had to build the next great Liverpool before the old one disappeared. And one of his greatest weapons was his eye for players. Some would arrive for huge fees. Others would come from places nobody expected Liverpool to search. The first clue came with number 5. Paisley's first signing as manager was a gamble. Instead of chasing an established First Division star, he went down to Northampton Town in the 4th Division. The fee was around £66,000. His name was Phil Neal. Even Paisley's scouting trip had an unexpected twist. Neal later recalled that when Paisley came to watch him, circumstances forced him to finish the match in goal. Paisley had travelled to assess a defender. He ended up watching him between the posts, yet he had seen enough. Neal arrived at Anfield in October 1974. And what followed proved just how much Paisley had seen in him. At one stage, Neal played an astonishing 417 consecutive matches. He eventually made 650 Liverpool appearances, won 8 league championships, and featured in all 4 of the club's first European Cup triumphs. His collection reached 18 major honours. Years later, Neal summed up his old manager's ability in one line. When it came to buying players, Bob was second to none. Neal was powerful evidence. A defender taken from the 4th Division became one of the most decorated footballers Liverpool ever had. And this was Paisley's first signing as manager. It established a pattern that would define his reign. He wasn't interested only in what a player already was. He could see what that player might become at Liverpool. Phil Neal was number 5. And from here, the choices became harder, the stakes became greater, and Paisley's judgment became even more extraordinary. If you remember this era, subscribe. There's plenty more to uncover. Paisley's next choice challenged the traditional idea of what a centre-half should look like. Number 4 was Alan Hansen. Liverpool signed him from Partick Thistle in 1977 for around £100,000. Hansen was lean, elegant and unusually calm. He didn't look like the bruising centre-halves who dominated British football. But Paisley saw what mattered. Hansen could read danger before it developed. He could win the ball without making defending look desperate. And when possession came to him, he didn't simply clear it. He could carry it forward and start the next attack. That intelligence gradually made him indispensable as Liverpool moved from one great generation to another. By the end of his career, Hansen had made 620 appearances, won 8 league titles and 3 European Cups, and collected 18 major honours. But the clearest measure of Hansen came from Paisley himself. After decades inside British football, his verdict was remarkable. The most skillful centre-half I have ever seen in the British game. That was what separated Hansen. Others could be stronger. Others could look more intimidating. But few could make defending appear so effortless. And Paisley had recognised it before Hansen became one of Liverpool's defining players. It was another lesson in how he built his teams. He wasn't searching for the most obvious footballer. He was searching for the right one. But number 3 would test a different side of his judgment. There was little hidden about this man's ability. He had skill, he had aggression, he had authority. And getting him would require Paisley to make one of the biggest moves of his reign. Some players needed time before Paisley's judgment became obvious. Graeme Souness did not. He is number 3. Liverpool brought him from Middlesbrough in January 1978 for around £350,000. Then a record fee between English clubs. It was serious money. Paisley knew exactly what he was buying. Souness had the aggression to survive the ugliest midfield battle and the ability to control the game once he had won it. That combination made him frightening. And his impact was almost immediate. Only months after arriving, Souness walked out at Wembley for the European Cup final. With the match still goalless, he spotted a run through the defence and delivered the pass that opened the way for Liverpool's winner. Liverpool were champions of Europe again. But Paisley eventually trusted Souness with something even greater than the midfield. He trusted him with Liverpool. In 1982, Paisley decided to change his captain. Phil Thompson already held the armband. He was a European Cup-winning Liverpool man, and later admitted the decision left him furious. Paisley still made it. The quiet manager could be brutally unsentimental when he believed the team needed something different. And the man he chose was Souness. It proved inspired. Souness became the heartbeat of another dominant Liverpool side, technically gifted, fiercely competitive, and almost impossible to intimidate. He finished his Anfield career with 359 appearances, 55 goals, 5 league titles, and 3 European Cups. But perhaps his greatest transformation was simpler. Paisley had signed a formidable midfielder. He ended up with the captain of Europe's champions. That is why Souness belongs at number 3, but number 2 would test Paisley in an entirely different way. The next signing didn't arrive and immediately justify the money. He struggled, he became frustrated, and at one point, his future at Anfield looked uncertain. What Paisley did next turned that uncertainty into one of the greatest careers Liverpool ever witnessed. The next signing tested something different in Paisley: patience. Number 2 was Ian Rush. Liverpool signed the 18-year-old from Chester in 1980 for £300,000. The potential was obvious. The goals were not. Rush failed to score in his first 9 senior appearances and struggled to establish himself among Liverpool's experienced stars. He became frustrated. At one point, he even considered whether his future should be somewhere else. This was where Paisley mattered. He didn't panic. He didn't discard the youngster. He understood that Rush needed time and a push. Rush later recalled asking to be placed on the transfer list during that difficult period. Paisley allowed him to believe it had happened. When the goals eventually started coming and Rush asked to be taken off the list, Paisley revealed the truth. He had never put him on it. It was classic Paisley psychology. He had made the young striker believe his Liverpool career was in his own hands. Then everything changed. Rush scored 30 goals in 49 appearances during his breakthrough, 1981-82 season. Soon, defenders across England were discovering just how devastating he could be. Before one Merseyside derby at Goodison Park, Rush recalled Paisley predicting that he would score a hat-trick. Rush went one better. He scored 4. Liverpool won 5-0. The uncertain youngster was disappearing. In his place was one of Europe's most feared finishers. Rush eventually scored 346 goals in 660 Liverpool appearances. No player in the club's history has scored more. That is what makes this signing extraordinary. Paisley didn't simply identify a great goal scorer, he recognised one before the goals were there, and when doubt threatened to take over, he knew exactly how to handle him. Yet even Liverpool's greatest ever goal scorer sits at only number 2. Because Paisley once faced an even greater challenge. One of Europe's finest players was leaving Anfield just as Liverpool had reached the summit. Replacing him looked almost impossible. Paisley somehow found an upgrade worthy of the throne. In 1977, Paisley faced perhaps the most dangerous transfer decision of his reign. Liverpool had just conquered Europe. Then Kevin Keegan left for Hamburg. Replacing a good player is difficult. Replacing one of Europe's finest when your team has just reached the summit is something else entirely. Get it wrong, and Liverpool could go backwards. Paisley went to Celtic. The price was a British record £440,000. The man coming south was Kenny Dalglish, and he is number 1. Paisley knew exactly how much expectation followed the deal, but his confidence was unmistakable. "In Kenny, I think I've got the best." Dalglish wasted little time proving him right. He scored 31 goals in his first season. Then came Wembley. Liverpool were defending their European Cup against Club Brugge. The match remained goalless. The man signed to replace Keegan had scored the goal that retained the European Cup. But Dalglish became much more than a replacement. His movement created space. His vision opened defences. His intelligence made the players around him better. And later, his partnership with Ian Rush became one of the defining combinations of Liverpool's greatest era. He eventually finished with 515 appearances and 172 goals for the club. Yet Paisley's strongest verdict wasn't about numbers. After decades spent playing, coaching and managing, he described Dalglish as the most talented player he had ever worked with. That tells us why this signing stands above the rest. Neal brought reliability. Hansen brought intelligence. Souness brought authority. Rush brought goals. Dalglish brought almost everything. Paisley had been asked to replace the seemingly irreplaceable. Instead of allowing Liverpool's greatest departure to weaken his dynasty, he turned it into another beginning. And that is why Kenny Dalglish stands at number 1. But there is one final measure of Paisley's eye for talent. Look at the players who didn't even make this five. Because at almost any other club, some of those names would have been impossible to leave out. Perhaps the best measure of Paisley's recruitment is who didn't make the five. Terry McDermott became one of England's finest attacking midfielders. Ronnie Whelan arrived for around £35,000 and became another European champion. Bruce Grobbelaar was brought in to succeed the great Ray Clements and went on to make 628 appearances. Then there was Mark Lawrenson, Paisley's £900,000 record signing. Alan Kennedy delivered decisive goals on European nights, and Steve Nicol, signed from Ayr United, became another remarkable piece of business. Most managers would be proud to have signed that group alone. For Paisley, they were the men who missed out. But he never built Liverpool alone. Chief scout Jeff Twentyman was one of the key men behind the recruitment network, searching places bigger clubs often overlooked. Paisley's job was to make the final judgment. Could the player handle Anfield? Did he have the right character? Could he become better than the man already wearing the shirt? Paisley once explained what Liverpool searched for. What we look for in a player is character and raw material. That was the formula. 20-man helped find them. Paisley knew which ones to trust, and Liverpool knew how to develop them. That is why this wasn't simply a handful of brilliant transfers. It was a system that kept replacing champions with champions. And the greatest proof came when Paisley was no longer the manager. Liverpool kept winning. The greatest proof of Paisley's work came after he left the dugout. He retired in 1983. A year later, Joe Fagan's Liverpool completed an extraordinary treble. The League Cup, the European Cup. Yet Paisley's fingerprints were everywhere. Neal remained at right back. Hansen controlled the defence. Souness was captain. Rush scored an astonishing 47 goals. Dalglish remained the brain of the attack. Paisley had stepped away. His players were still conquering Europe. Fagan himself acknowledged it. Never forget it was Bob Paisley's era that brought the players here. That was Paisley's real achievement. He inherited Shankly's champions, then rebuilt them without allowing Liverpool to stop winning. He knew when to gamble, when to spend, when to wait, and when to replace yesterday's heroes. Paisley once put his relationship with Shankly simply, "Bill built the house and I put the roof on it." By 1984, Paisley was gone from the dugout, but Liverpool was still standing above Europe. If you believe the greats of this era should never be forgotten, subscribe. There are many more still waiting to be remembered.